and welcome to No Spin. I'm Nidhi Razdan. After Maharashtra, is the stability of the JMM-Congress government in Jharkhand under threat? A huge haul of cash was allegedly found on 3 Congress MLAs who were then arrested by the Bengal police, and that has fueled intense speculation that the BJP is trying to topple Hemant Soren's government. The Congress claims this is clear evidence of a BJP plot, while the BJP says this is just evidence of corruption in the Congress ranks in the state. However, another Congress MLA has filed an FIR naming Assam Chief Minister Himanta Sarma in the complaint. He accuses Sarma of hatching the BJP plan to bring the government down, claiming that each MLA in Jharkhand is being offered 10 crores to leave. Himanta Sarma, however, says he keeps meeting unhappy Congress leaders anyway, while denying any active role in bringing this government down. The bigger question is whether the BJP is trying the Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka and Maharashtra script in Jharkhand. Whether the use of money power and agency power, thanks to the Enforcement Directorate, is being used to bring opposition governments down. This is a significant development since things do not seem to be okay within the Jharkhand coalition either. In the recently held presidential elections, as many as 9 Congress MLAs cross-voted in favour of Draupadi Murmu. The Chief Minister is also facing the heat in an alleged mining scam. Let's first listen though to Himanta Sarma's reaction to the charges that he is trying to topple the Jharkhand government.
कांग्रेस का बड़ा बड़ा दिग्गज जो एकदम मैं टॉप मोस्ट बोल सकता हूँ, वो सब भी मुझको मेरा साथ संपर्क में रहता है. कोई पॉलिटिक्स का बात नहीं करता है, लेकिन जब 22 साल एक व्यक्ति एक पार्टी में रहता है, संपर्क तो रहता है. तो इसके लिए कोई एक केस हो, कोई एक FIR दर्ज करे, पता नहीं है कांग्रेस का क्या हो चुका है.
Well, joining us on No Spin tonight, we have Tanuj Khatri, spokesperson of the JMM, Shama Mohammed from the Congress Party, Mr. Sameer Oraon, Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha from the BJP, Mr. Rashid Kidwai, senior journalist, commentator and author, and Yogendra Yadav, the member of Swaraj India, also joining us tonight. Thank you very much to all of you for joining us. Tanuj Khatri, to you first. Is your government in Jharkhand in trouble? What do you know about the arrest of these Congress MLAs?
देखिए निधि जी, आज से लगभग 2.5 वर्ष के पूर्व 29 दिसंबर 2019 को जब माननीय हेमंत सोरेन जी ने मुख्यमंत्री पद की शपथ ली, मैं ये कहूंगा तो अतिशयोक्ति नहीं होगी कि पहले दिन से ही डे 1 से ही राज्य के अंदर में भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने ये बात कहना शुरू कर दिया कि हम इस सरकार को गिरा दें. दिसंबर में शपथ होती है, जनवरी में वो कहते हैं कि 14 जनवरी के बाद हम सरकार को गिरा देंगे, और लगातार चाहे उनका कोई राज्य का जो नेतृत्व हो या जो शीर्ष नेतृत्व के नेता आते हो झारखंड के अंदर में, वो सब लगातार ये बात कहने का उन्होंने काम किया. और इसी बीच में 4 उपचुनाव हुए झारखंड के अंदर में, और चारों उपचुनावों में भारतीय जनता पार्टी को करारी शिकस्त मिली. लेकिन फिर भी ये जो कहते थे उस कथनी में इन्होंने अपना जो कार्यक्रम था उसको जारी रखा. कार्यक्रम से मेरा ये तात्पर्य है कि किस तरीके से चुनी हुई सरकार को गिराना, और ये देश से आज छुपा हुआ नहीं है कि किस तरीके से भारतीय जनता पार्टी.
क्या आप मानते हैं ये भी वही कोशिश है कि अभी भी वो इसी कोशिश में लगे हैं आपकी सरकार को गिराने में?
मानने की बात नहीं है, निश्चित रूप से पूर्ण रूप से ये उसी कोशिश में लगे हुए हैं. और ये और लगातार झारखंड ही वैसा राज्य है जो लगातार दूसरी बार इनकी कोशिश को यहाँ विफल होने का काम कर.
Okay, so that's important. As the spokesperson of the JMM, you are saying this is a clear attempt to topple Hemant Soren's government. But Shama Mohammed of the Congress Party, if I could ask you, what does this say about the Congress itself? Firstly, the fact that 3 of your MLAs were caught with so much, cash, they ended up being arrested. But also, isn't it a fact that things are not okay within the Congress in Jharkhand? You had as many as 9 Congress MLAs cross-voting in favour of Draupadi Murmu in the presidential election. So, is your own foundation in Jharkhand a bit weak at the moment?
I wouldn't agree with that, Nidhi. We have to understand now the weapon which is used by this BJP government at the centre is the ED. It is used to destabilize democratically elected governments. We saw what has happened in Maharashtra. We've seen what has happened in Karnataka and also Goa, which we could stop. They tried their best over there. Now, even in Goa, Himanta Sarma was involved, as I know. There's a lot of echo. So, I'm sorry, there was echo, that's why I've just removed this. So now what we see is there is an MLA by the name of JMM Singh who clearly says that he was also contacted by Mr. Ansari, the one of the 3 suspended MLAs, and they were going to be given crores of money as well as cabinet berth by Mr. Himanta Sarma. Now, I'm asking today, why is ED not going to investigate this particular thing which Mr. JMM Singh is saying? ED has to investigate that. We all know that in 2014, ED, the CBI was investigating Mr. Himanta Sarma when Sudipto Sen of the Sharada told CBI that 20 lakhs was given every month to Himanta Sarma, and they investigated. But in 2019, the police commissioner, former police commissioner Rajiv Sharma of Calcutta told High Court that the CBI has stopped their investigations on Himanta Sarma, but they are investigating him, the police commissioner who was in charge of the SIT against the Sharda and the Narda scam. So we have proof over here. We have also proof in terms of Kirit Somaya, who said that Narayan Rane, for example, he filed a case at the ED saying that around 300 crores has been laundered. Now, why is the ED not questioning Mr. Narayan Rane? Today, they are after Shiv Sena leaders. We have seen they are after Sanjay Raut. Why are they? I want to also know there is another Shiv Sena leader who has joined Mr. Sarnaik, who is on the side of Mr. Shinde. They were questioning, the ED was questioning him before he joined it, Pratap Sarnaik. Will they question him now? Will they continue to question? No, they've stopped it.
Shama
so
Mohammed,
this weapon of ED, which is used only on opponents to harass them.
Sure, I take your point about the agencies, but my question is about whether within your party itself there is a problem. If you have 9 of your MLAs cross-voting in the presidential elections, is there a problem in-house? And why are they taking money, even if they're being offered it?
No, that's what I'm going to try. So, in Goa, for example, they tried it, and they said there's a huge problem with the Congress party. That was what was told. That is what they do. They want to create issues like this. But there is no problem on our part. It is what the BJP government, the central government is. The BJP government is, see, one more thing, Nidhi, the cross-voting happened. It's a hidden ballot. Does anybody know what has happened over there? So, there are times, you might have issues in social, but at this point of time, we don't have much of an issue. But it is this muscle power and money power and the threat by ED. Even if somebody is not, like for example, they questioned Rahul Gandhi for 50 hours for 5 days. They caused Mrs. Sonia Gandhi. There is no evidence. This is just harassment
let me get Mr. Oraon.
What are we seeing with Sanjay Raut right now? That is the thing.
Okay, so you're saying this is all in the behest.
They're using ED as a weapon.
Okay.
And that is the problem
you're actually
today.
asking for the ED to come and investigate this cash haul in Jharkhand. You're actually saying let the ED come and investigate this cash haul in Jharkhand.
Yes, definitely. They should. Okay, they should investigate Himanta Sarma.
Let me ask Mr. Samir Oraon, who is an MP from Jharkhand from the Rajya Sabha. Mr. Oraon, would you like to comment on this? क्या एक ऑपरेशन लोटस झारखंड में भी जारी है, जहां झारखंड की सरकार गिरने वाली है?
देखिए निधि जी, ये कोई किसी भी प्रकार का कोई ऑपरेशन का विषय नहीं है। ये जो है कांग्रेस और झारखंड मुक्ति मोर्चा और जो है राष्ट्रीय जनता दल की ये सरकार झारखंड में चल रही है। इन तीनों दल का इतिहास रहा है, ये कोई नई बात नहीं है। ये तीनों दल, खास करके कांग्रेस, देश के आज़ादी के बाद से सत्ता में रही है, चाहे सेंट्रल में हो चाहे स्टेट में हो, चाहे कोई ये राजद हो चाहे ये जेएमएम के लोग हों। हमेशा से ये लोग भ्रष्टाचार से लिप्त है। ये लोग अपने कई प्रकार के कारनामों के कारण भ्रष्टाचार में लिप्त रहता है और ये छुपने के लिए, बचने के लिए और किसी दूसरे का नाम लेकर के ये लोग बहस का मुद्दा बनाना चाहता है। निश्चित रूप से मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि जिस प्रकार से झारखंड में जो है सरकार चल रही है, उसमें खास करके ये जो है कांग्रेस के लोगों ने किस प्रकार से सत्ता को खुद अपने ही जो है सरकार को अस्थिर करने में लगा हुआ है। मैं बताना चाहता हूं कि ये जो है मधु कोड़ा की सरकार में भी एक कांग्रेस का बहुत बड़ा हाथ रहा था। अब जो है यही हाथ हेमंत सोरेन की सरकार में हाथ लगाया है, तो निश्चित रूप से इन लोगों का जो है पुरानी आदत है।
तो आप कह रहे
उस
हैं कि
आदत से ये लोग जो है बाज नहीं आ रहा है और जो है इस प्रकार से ये लोग जो है भ्रष्टाचार के अंदर। मैं बताना चाहता हूं निधि जी, मैं बताना चाहता हूं अभी अभी जो है बहुत दिन नहीं हुआ है कि जिस प्रकार से जो है ये लोग जो है एक गो तस्करों के साथ में साठगांठ करके जिस प्रकार से वहां की एक जो है एक जनजाति एक पुलिस अधिकारी डीएसपी उसको जो है कुचल करके जान मारने का काम किया है, और जहां ये सिमडेगा जिला से चल करके ये जो है जिस विधानसभा का एक विधायक जो है अभी रुपयों के साथ पकड़ाया है उसके क्षेत्र में यह घटना होती है, तो यह सहज अंदाजा लगाया जा सकता है कि ये लोग किस प्रकार से भ्रष्टाचार से लिप्त है और वो रुपयों का हेरा फेर में वो लोग लगे हुए हैं और ये कहा दूसरे को ये दोष देने में लगे हुए हैं।
भ्रष्टाचार है जिससे ये लिप्त हैं, तो क्या आप मानते हैं कि ईडी को इसकी जांच करनी चाहिए इस पैसे के बारे में?
देखिए, ये भारत सरकार का एक संस्थान है और ये संस्थान ऐसे सारे चीजों को वो देखने के लिए ही, इस पर कार्रवाई करने के लिए ही ये संस्थान बनी हुई है। ये जो है जहां कहीं भी जिस भी प्रकार से इस प्रकार से जो विषय आता है वहां पर वो अपना कार्रवाई शुरू करती है।
देखते हैं कितने दिन लगते हैं उस कार्रवाई को शुरू होने में। ठीक है देखते हैं।
कार्रवाई करेगी, पूछिए ना, बताइए, जवाब दीजिए।
But well, it's not in his hands. He doesn't the ED doesn't answer to him.
Why is he not giving a straight answer?
But one second, there is a bigger pattern here that is emerging, Yogendra Yadav. If you look at, whether it was Karnataka, whether it was Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Jharkhand, despite the BJP's denials, do you see a pattern here of working quietly to topple an opposition state government?
Absolutely, Nidhi. There cannot be any doubt about it. And I think Uran Saab has given already a very...
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Yadav.
I said Mr. Uran has already given a very beautiful method, a formula to us. Uran Saab ने बहुत सुंदर सूत्र दिया है, हमें बस उसी को फॉलो करना चाहिए। उन्होंने कहा सबका इतिहास देख लीजिए। I think he's absolutely right. So let us look at the history of BJP. Let us look at the history of ED. Let us look at the history of Mr. Himanta Sarma. In the case of BJP, it's not just Maharashtra. Before Maharashtra, you have Madhya Pradesh, you have Karnataka, you have Manipur, you have Goa, and on and on and on. So there is a clear pattern to it. Number two, look at the record of ED. If it is not partisan, what else is it? I mean, we know that in the first 10-15 years, annually there used to be about 100 or 120, 150 cases of ED raids and so on. Now the average, the last year was 1,180. Before that was 900 plus. So there is a pattern. And third, look at the record of Mr. Himanta Sarma. I don't need to say very much. He is the points person for the BJP. Points person for what? Everyone in this country knows. So there is a pattern. उराम साहब बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं। आपका जो मेथड है इतिहास देखने वाला, उसका इस्तेमाल करें तो हमें बिल्कुल पूरी सच्चाई दिखाई दे रही है। Sadly, Nidhi, we are back to 1980s. 1980s saw one of the worst records of toppling of governments. At that time, it was the Congress, to be honest. One should put the entire truth. The only difference is that in 1980, you did not have Sarkaria Commission. You did not have the famous Bombay judgment of the Supreme Court, which put an end to all that. What is happening today is after Sarkaria Commission. It is post-Bombay judgment. And when it was happening in the 80s, there was a sense of shame about it. Today, there is brazenness about it. That is the difference.
Let me take that to Mr. Deshratan Nigam, who's joining us as well this evening. Mr. Nigam, then how does that bode well, for democracy if governments are sought to be toppled in this way?
Well, Nidhi, first there is a presumption that government is being toppled because of this. Let's not go into that presumption because that privilege I don't have. Because everybody is presuming that money BJP has given, and imagine, a person who's been caught, money given by BJP, runs into West Bengal. He should have gone to BJP state. Probably he would have been safe. So let's not presume something. They went into the tiger's mouth straight away. Secondly, the state government has already registered a case in West Bengal. So, and they have not, applied PMLA. If they had applied PMLA, then ED would have taken over the case. ED would have come into the picture.
ED can take over when there's any FIR. It doesn't have to wait for some PMLA. No, it can. It's done it in the National Herald case even without a PMLA being slapped in that case.
Let me tell you, the Subramanian Swamy in 2019 gave subsequent evidence of 300 pages to the court. And through the court process, the ED has taken over.
The ED can take over any FIR by the police or by the CBI or anyone. So the ED has a lot of powers. But do you believe that the ED will investigate this?
So let me tell you, there has to be an invocation of sections under the PMLA by the state government. Then the ED will automatically take it over. So let us be very clear, it is just not like that ED jumps into everything. So there are laid down procedures and process, and then only they can do it. Here the state government has already taken the action.
But Mr. Nigam, the question is a political one because it's quite sweet. It's quite sweet of you to say that the BJP doesn't have a role in this, but we do know that behind the scenes a lot is happening in Jharkhand as well for some time. Along with other states, it's the same pattern everywhere. I'm just asking you whether it bodes well, for us to see opposition governments being taken down in this way.
See, opposition governments are not being taken down by the BJP. Let's see their houses itself not in order. Harakiri is being committed by these political parties on national issues when they take a stand which is bordering on anti-India sentiments. So people are already watching. And so far as presidential election is concerned, Srimati Draupadi Murmu got about 17% more votes than what she should have gone. So it is cutting across party lines. So you can't say, because they chose a candidate about, it was tribal empowerment, women empowerment and tribal unity. All those factors were there. But the fact remains that let opposition parties put their own house in order and stop blaming BJP for that. If their MLAs and if their house is in order, why should people
I will take that to the Congress in just a moment. I'll get Mr. Rashid Kidwai in first. Mr. Kidwai, is it just, a house of cards that are collapsing on their own? We know it's not just that, as innocent as that.
Absolutely, Nidhi. I think the morality aspects have been adequately dealt by Mr. Yogendra Yadav and Shama and Mr. Khatri, etc. I think there are several dimensions of it. The one level is Khel Hobe was planned in Jharkhand on August 5. It has gone foul. So it's a kind of setback to the BJP. It's true that the Congress was a divided house. There was one group was competing with another to kind of split, and that is why it resulted to it. On another side, it shows that how the JMM Chief Minister, Jharkhand Chief Minister and Mamata Banerjee, they are working in tandem. You look at the sequence of events, it looks both were in the know and they were the ones who foiled it. So it shows that in opposition, whatever cooperation or unity we talk about it, Congress is on the one side, a bit aloof, and there are the other regional chief ministers who have come close. And now, of course, the BJP will have to do it, in wholesale. They will have to bring somehow, Soren himself or something like that. Because the Congress story is over. Of course, there's a lot of lesson for the Congress. Because the Congress knew that, the 9 MLAs are unhappy. If there are 3 more, then it becomes 12. And once 12,
but Mr. Kidwai, we've actually just got a bite of Hemant Soren's, and I'm going to play that out in just a moment. It's just come as we speak, where he has actually blamed the BJP for trying to destabilize his government, but said that they're not succeeding so far. But, despite that public statement, Mr. Kidwai, there is a sense that he may actually jump ship, to the BJP. To join hands with the BJP again. Are you getting that sense as well that could happen, given the sort of focus and the scanner that he is under himself and his government is under?
Yes, Nidhi, indeed. I won't be surprised.
All right, I apologize.
Retail business has gone, is turned foul. It didn't happen. So now it has to be a wholesale thing.
Okay, all right, Mr. Kidwai, we're briefly losing your line there, but we got the gist of what you said. So let me take that back to Shama Mohammed. Shama Mohammed, what Mr. Deshratan Nigam said, I don't know what Mr. Nigam meant by your anti-national stand on issues, but would you like to respond to what he said about getting your own house in order, which is what I was asking you as well, that clearly there are problems that you're facing within your state units?
Nidhi, he was saying that ED works in a certain manner, there is certain thing. Now, for example, in National Herald case, there was no scheduled offence. It's something called prevention of money laundering, where there is no money laundering can happen in a Section 25 company. So it was an alleged income tax issue, which is already in the Supreme Court. So ED acts when they want, it's not when they want, it's when Mr. Modi and Shah wants, where they want, they direct the ED to go, and that's how. I dare the ED to go and investigate the FIR filed by the Jharkhand MLA of ours regarding Mr. Himanta Sarma. Like Mr. Yogendra Yadav said, Mr. Sarma has a history. Let's not forget the Louis Berger case, in which the BJP used to tell, we need to investigate, CBI has to investigate him, ED has to investigate. But as soon as he joined them, it stopped. It's the same case with Suvendu Adhikari in 2017. He was investigated under the ED and the CBI regarding the Sharda scam. But as soon as he joined them in 2020, that stopped. What about Yediyurappa's diaries? You remember the diary which came out? What happened to that? What happened to the conviction of Yediyurappa? He was in prison. What happened to the Vyapam case? I am saying that whoever is corrupt should go behind bars, but it cannot be against the opposition. You need to go behind people who are in your party. And I want to know, I'm going to dare him to go back and investigate. Why is ED stopped the investigation of Narayan Rane? It's their own member of parliament, Kirit Somaya, who's been going after him. So let them do that work. Let them go and investigate Narayan Rane and Himanta Sarma. And he also said one more thing, one last point. He said that your MLAs and money and everything, we have suspended the three of them. They're suspended right now. So yes, there is a lure of money as well as muscle power. Let's not forget that, Nidhi. It is now become the goon. ED has become the goon of
Yogendra Yadav, if I could just ask you to wear your...
This is used to destabilize.
Yogendra Yadav, if I could ask you to wear your psephologist and come political analyst's hat for a moment. How does all of this play out with voters is the question. You described history and what happened in the 80s when the Congress was busy toppling state governments and undermining federalism, and India's federal structure. Today, when that is happening, does it matter to voters?
It can matter. In the long run, it may matter. But in the short run, it doesn't. And that's what all parties take advantage of. But Nidhi, that's precisely why we have constitution. If the country was to be governed only by election, whoever wins this country for 5 years, they can do what they like. In that case, we don't need constitution. We don't need the Supreme Court. We don't need rules and laws. We need all this because we are saying the game of politics can only be played within certain boundaries. Those boundaries have to be sacrosanct. If Congress broke them in 1980s, someone has to step in and say this is not done. And if the BJP is breaking them today, someone has to come in, step in and say this is wrong. Mr. Nigam very correctly points out, we should not have a presumption. Yes, we are not omniscient. We should not claim to know everything before it has happened. At the same time, we should not pretend to be blind. When there's something in front of our eyes, when there's something everyone in this country can see on newspapers, not to know this would look very, very foolish. And I'm sure Mr. Nigam would not wish to do that. Right. On a larger note, Nidhi, what's happening really is we have a regress of federalism in this country. We began as a country which was federal but more tilted in favor of the center. By 1990s, 90s is a decade when India genuinely becomes a federal country, true to the spirit of the constitution. But now we are, whether it's economy, whether it's culture, whether it's policy or it's politics, there is a serious regress of federalism in this country, which should worry everyone over and above the question of political ethics.
Absolutely. I have to leave it there tonight. Let's see how things develop in Jharkhand. Thank you very much to to all of you for joining us on that big story. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Good night.